You can have everything. The titles, the applause, the admiration. You can check every box, win every race, and still feel like you've lost something essential along the way. There's a kind of success that the world celebrates, but it secretly asks you to trade pieces of yourself for it. And at first, you don't notice. You're praised, promoted. They call you driven, accomplished, inspiring. But slowly, quietly, a fracture begins to form inside. You drift from your own truth, one decision at a time, in a world overflowing with templates, models for how to live, what to want, who to be. It's easy to forget to ask if any of it actually fits. You pick a path because it seems to work. You pursue the goals everyone else is chasing. And then one day you arrive, and the feeling isn't triumph. It's confusion, or worse, disconnection, that subtle misalignment, where everything around you says, you made it, but something inside you whispers, this isn't me. Carl Jung never spoke of success as something you earn in the outside world. For him, real success was something much quieter. It was walking your path without abandoning your soul, because once you give up your inner wholeness, it doesn't matter how high you climb. You're only getting further from home. This isn't about rejecting the world. It's not about romanticizing solitude. It's about remembering who you are beneath all the roles. It's about making decisions that feel real again, finding your way back to the kind of life that doesn't demand self-betrayal as its entry fee. So maybe the question isn't, what did you achieve? Maybe it's, what part of yourself did you bury to get here? This message isn't a call to give up. It's an invitation to pause, to ask whether the version of success you've been chasing is actually yours. Because if it's not, then no amount of praise will ever be enough. There's a difference between living a life and performing one, but many of us have become experts in the performance, fluent in the script, convincing in the role. We say the right things, smile at the right moments, act composed even when everything inside us is screaming, and after a while, we forget where performance ends, and the truth begins. This is what Jung called identification with the persona, the mask we create to function in the world, which eventually becomes so well-constructed, we start confusing it with who we really are. But this isn't theory. This is daily life. It's how you show up at work. Measured, polished, strategic. It's how you talk to friends. Filtered, agreeable, digestible. It's how you shrink certain feelings because they don't fit the setting. You become a master of emotional editing. You calibrate your presence to match expectations. You push down the mess, the questions, the rawness, and you carry on, but performing constantly. It's exhausting. And more than that, it's isolating, because eventually you start forming relationships based on the image you project, not the person you are. And that's when the loneliness creeps in, even in a crowded room, even with people who admire you, because they don't really see you. And maybe you've stopped seeing yourself too. This disconnection doesn't show up all at once. It's subtle. It settles in gradually, like fog rolling in over time. It starts with small things. You bite your tongue instead of speaking your mind. You say yes when your whole body says no. You silence your instincts to maintain harmony or control or approval. And one day, you wake up with a sinking feeling. Life is happening, but you're not in it. And here's the trap. The world keeps rewarding you for the role. More applause, more praise, more validation for doing things right. No one sees the crack forming beneath the surface. No one questions the emptiness, because you still look functional. But it's there. It shows up in the sleepless nights, the vague anxiety, the invisible heaviness, that feeling that something is missing, and you can't name what. And if you keep ignoring it, something even worse happens. You forget how to be anything other than the role. You become a body in motion, Efficient, productive, polished, but hollow. So before you disappear into the mask completely, stop, not forever, just long enough to ask yourself the question you've been avoiding. Who is this version of me I show the world? And who is being silenced inside me so that version can survive? This is where the illusion begins to break, where the applause stops meaning what it used to, where the idea of success starts to feel like a trap, not a prize. And it's also where something powerful begins, the decision to return, to stop performing, and start remembering who you were before the mask. You don't lose yourself in a single moment. There's no alarm, no breaking point you can circle on a calendar. Losing yourself is gradual. It happens in whispers, in tiny negotiations no one sees. You start by compromising once, then twice, until it becomes a lifestyle. You tolerate something small, an expectation, a tone, a habit. You ignore a gut feeling, push aside an internal no, reshape your reactions to fit the room, and slowly, your own voice gets quieter. It's not gone, just buried under layers of should, must, and what will they think? And by the time you notice, you've been gone a while. But how do you know it's happening? How can you tell that this polished version of you has drifted far from the real one? Start here. Look at your decisions. Are they guided by a true yes or by fear? Fear of disappointing, fear of standing out, fear of losing what others told you was important. When you say, I want this, is that voice yours or an echo of someone else's dream? Now look at your silences, the moments when you hold back, when you choose not to speak, not because it's wise, but because it's safer. How often do you censor yourself? To keep the peace? To maintain an image? To avoid the discomfort of being misunderstood? Each time you bite your tongue for the wrong reason, you abandon a piece of yourself. Now shift your focus, not to your body's exhaustion, but your mind's. At the end of a day, do you feel alive or emptied out? Do the hours you spend working, interacting, doing, actually feed you? Or do they leave you numb? That numbness has a cost. It's the color draining from your life, the spark fading from your eyes. What once moved you no longer does. What once felt sacred now feels routine. And the most dangerous part? You start accepting it. You call maturity, responsibility, just how life is. But deep down, you know something's not right. And then come the emotional shifts. You overreact to the small stuff, or you underreact to big things. Moments that should touch you don't. Moments that shouldn't explode inside you. This happens because the real you, the one you've silenced, is still alive, still fighting to be heard. And the pressure of that repression eventually leaks through the cracks. You might not even recognize yourself anymore. At work, you're one version. With friends, another. With family, someone else entirely. But none of them feel real. They all feel constructed, like you're trying to meet expectations instead of embodying truth. And then the quiet moments become unbearable. Solitude becomes threatening because the silence reveals how far you've drifted from what actually matters to you. You don't know what inspires you anymore. You don't know what you believe, or want, or feel. You just function. And the world, it keeps applauding your performance. It loves your discipline, your reliability, your polish. No one questions your pain, because pain that stays quiet is socially acceptable. As long as you produce, as long as you smile, no one will ask what's missing. But inside, you feel the weight in the anxious mornings, in the nights you can't sleep, in the way joy starts to feel like a memory. This is not depression. It's not laziness. It's the ache of a soul being ignored. And if you keep pushing forward like this, the cost is everything. You become a shell, a collection of habits, deadlines, and smiles with no center, no fire, no you. But here's the truth. It's not too late, not if you're willing, to finally look in the mirror and ask, who have I become? And even more important, who is still in there, waiting to return? Disconnection is not the end. It's a sign, a silent nudge from within, that something essential is still alive and asking to be found. But let's be clear, this return is not automatic. There is no sudden awakening, no lightning bolt of clarity. The journey back to yourself requires something more difficult than effort. It requires presence and a willingness to sit with what's uncomfortable. So where do we begin? We start not with action, but with stillness, not with doing, but with listening. One of the most radical things you can do in a world obsessed with movement is to stop fully, intentionally, without distractions, without a screen in front of your face, without a to-do list buzzing in your ear, just you and the silence. At first, it feels unbearable. The urge to reach for something, anything, is overwhelming because the moment you stop, the internal noise gets louder. All the thoughts you've pushed aside, all the feelings you've numbed, all the questions you've avoided, they rush in. But that discomfort, that's where the work begins. It's not a punishment. It's the sound of your soul waking up. The second practice is what Jung pointed to in his lifelong dialogue with the unconscious. You don't need a therapist to begin. All you need is honesty and a blank page. Start writing, not to sound wise, not to be productive. Write as if no one will ever read it, because no one will. Write messily, write wildly, write truthfully. Let the words spill without logic or grammar or order, because what you're doing is breaking open the dam that's been holding back your inner truth. And in that flood, you may find anger, old grief, forgotten desires, unfinished stories. Welcome it all. Don't rush to interpret. Just allow. This is not about answers. It's about access. You are opening the door to the part of you that has been patiently waiting. But you don't have to stay still forever. Reconnection also lives in movement, as long as that movement is meaningful. So try this. Take a walk. No podcast. No music. No agenda. Let your body guide the pace. Let the outside world blur, so that the inside world can speak. You can also reclaim presence through simple acts of care. Cook something for yourself, not out of hunger, but as a gesture of attention. Create something with your hands. Say no to something trivial, just to feel your own boundaries again. These may seem like small gestures, but they're sacred because each one whispers to your unconscious, I am here again. And the unconscious listens and responds. There's another tool, and this one will challenge you deeply. It's the practice of progressive sincerity. Begin gently to tell more of the truth, not all at once, not in explosive declarations, but slowly, precisely, deliberately. Notice where you smile when you're not happy, where you say, I'm fine, but you're not, where you pretend just to be liked, just to keep things smooth. And in those places, begin to shift. Speak a little more truth. Show a little more of your actual self. You don't have to burn bridges, but you do need to build new ones that can carry the weight of your real voice. Every time you choose honesty over performance, your inner structure grows stronger. You are stitching yourself back together, thread by thread. But let's not lie to ourselves. This path is not always peaceful, because the moment you stop playing the part, something else begins. Discomfort. You will feel the friction, the discomfort of becoming visible in a way you haven't been in years, the discomfort of not fitting into people's expectations anymore. And that discomfort, that's the proof you're getting closer. It means a performance is cracking and something real is breaking through. In the next part, we'll walk straight into the fire, the unavoidable pain of disappointing others, and why it's the most honest sign that you're finally living from truth. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. The moment you begin to live more honestly, you will start to disappoint people. Not because you become unkind, not because you've stopped caring, but because the version of you they knew was never fully real to begin with. It was the edited version, the agreeable one, the version that knew how to say the right things, suppress the wrong ones, and keep the balance, even at your own expense. When you begin to say no, where you used to nod, when you stop shrinking your truth just to maintain the peace, when you stop apologizing for simply being real, some people will react, and not all of them gently. You'll feel it first in the subtle moments. The co-worker who's suddenly distant, the friend who seems irritated by your honesty, the family member who says, "You've changed," as if it's an accusation. And maybe they're right. You have changed. You've stopped bending. You're no longer contorting yourself to keep others comfortable. You've broken an unspoken rule, and the system around you notices. Because here's what no one tells you. Much of your life has been built on invisible agreements, silent contracts that say, "I'll keep playing this role as long as you keep liking me." And when you break those contracts, even without words, people feel it. They don't always get angry at you. They get angry at the shift, at the fact that you're no longer mirroring what they expect, no longer offering the emotional buffering you used to provide. But that reaction, that tension, it's not proof that you're wrong. It's proof that you're moving into truth. This kind of friction, it hurts because you will want to go back. You'll feel the old reflex, to soften your edges, to step back into the mask, just to soothe the discomfort in the room. But pause before you do, because this pain, this disruption, is sacred. It means you're no longer performing. It means you're finally standing in your own skin. And yes, you will lose things. You might lose approval. You might lose predictability. You might even lose some relationships that were built on who you used to be. But here's what you gain: yourself. You begin to build something solid inside, a kind of loyalty to your own soul that no one can take from you. And with time, something unexpected happens. The people who stay see you more clearly. The new people you meet you, not the projection. Your connections shift from conditional to real, from polite to nourishing. But none of that happens until you face the one thing most of us avoid: the fear of being misunderstood. You will be misunderstood, at times deeply, and still you must keep going, because the alternative is to keep betraying yourself for the comfort of others. And the longer you do that, the more invisible you become, even to yourself. Jung called it individuation, the process of separating from the collective script, from inherited values, from roles that no longer serve. And yes, it feels like loss, but it's not death, it's rebirth. Every time you disappoint someone, in the name of your truth, you affirm something deeper, that you are finally choosing yourself. And when you do that, you begin to rebuild your life, not as a performance, but as something rooted, real, aligned. This is not easy, but it is sacred and necessary, because in the end, you're not here to live someone else's version of you. You're here to come home to your own. What if success was never meant to be a finish line? Not a title, not a number in your account, not a polished resume that makes strangers clap. What if real success is something much quieter, something no one else can measure, but you feel it in the way your chest rises when you breathe, in the way your reflection looks back at you with peace, not performance? At the end of it all, there's only one mirror that matters, not the one in your bathroom, the one in your mind, the one that shows up in the stillness of night, when all the noise fades, when the lights are off and there's no one to impress, just you and the truth you carry. Jung said the soul doesn't chase applause. It's not moved by trophies. It doesn't care about the highlight reel. The soul wants integrity. It wants wholeness. It wants to be lived, not silenced. And the more you shape your life to match external ideas of success, the more you risk losing the very thing that makes life worth living, your authenticity. True success, then, isn't a destination. It's not the mountain peak. It's a continuous act of inner alignment, a sacred agreement with your own spirit that you will no longer abandon it just to be seen. It's choosing truth, even when no one claps, even when it's inconvenient, even when it means walking away from something that looks perfect but feels wrong. And yes, that path may cost you. You may lose people. You may lose certain kinds of comfort. You may lose the illusion of safety. That comes with pretending. But what you gain is priceless. You gain clarity, peace, integrity. You gain yourself, undiluted, unapologetic, whole. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is already stirring, already aware that you can't keep living split in two. That part of you, the one that knows, is your guide now. Follow it, because here's what no one teaches. Living your truth, it will hurt at first, but in the end, it frees you. And no applause, no promotion, no external validation can ever compare to the quiet power of being able to look in the mirror and say, I didn't abandon myself. Not this time.